Welcome, curious listener, to The Deep Dive, your ultimate intelligent shortcut to truly being well-informed.
It's great to be here.
Every single day, the sheer volume of information that cascades into our lives is, well, it's astounding. We're talking about everything from mind-boggling scientific breakthroughs to, seismic geopolitical shifts and technology that seems to leapfrog ahead faster than we can even process the last innovation. It's a lot to navigate, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Trying to keep pace with it all can often feel like you're trying to drink from a fire hose while standing in a hurricane, right? There's just so much happening, and yeah, it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Precisely. And that's exactly why we're here. On the deep dive, we don't just skim the surface of that towering stack of the latest, most impactful stories, articles, and research. Oh, no. We roll up our sleeves. Our mission is to extract the vital nuggets of knowledge, connect those seemingly disparate dots that often go unnoticed, and really help you understand the deeper why behind what's happening in our world. Think of it as truly becoming well-informed, equipped with surprising facts, and hopefully just enough humor to keep you completely hooked. And crucially, this deep dive is crafted specifically for you.
Yeah, our goal is really to cut through the relentless noise. We aim to provide the context and the clarity you need to grasp the essence of complex issues without, ever feeling overwhelmed. It's about moving beyond just the headlines and understanding the intricate nuances that truly shape our global landscape.
I couldn't agree more. So what fascinating journey are we embarking on today? Well, we're unpacking an incredibly diverse stack of sources. We'll dive headfirst into new frontiers in health and medicine, then journey through the very latest discoveries in space, and trust me, some of these are truly mind-bending. After that, we'll dissect the complex interplay of technology and society, navigate the ever-shifting landscape of global geopolitics and conflicts, meticulously analyze key economic trends that affect us all, delve into the urgent challenges of climate change, and finally, touch on significant societal developments that are reshaping communities worldwide.
Get ready for more than a few aha moments, I think,
Okay.
because this is going to be an exploration filled with some genuine insight.
Okay, let's unpack this with some cutting-edge science and health insights, starting with a topic that's stirring up quite a debate in the medical community. New blood pressure guidelines. The big question, it seems, is how low should we actually go?
This really is a crucial discussion, yeah. And it challenges some long-held assumptions. A recent study published in the prestigious Annals of Internal Medicine suggests something quite profound. That maintaining systolic blood pressure, that's the top number in a reading below 120 millimeters of mercury, mmHg, can dramatically reduce the risk of heart disease.
Below 120 millimeters Hg. That sounds pretty aggressive to many people, myself included. My own doctor usually aims for a target, a little higher than that. Is this a new philosophy or is there strong data behind it?
It's certainly considered an aggressive target when compared to more traditional guidelines, yeah. But the research backing it comes from the SPRINT, or Systolic Blood Pressure Intervention Trial. This was a large-scale, randomized clinical trial that meticulously followed participants over a 10-year period. And what they found was quite compelling. This intensive blood pressure control was associated with a significant 12% reduction in all-cause mortality, meaning fewer deaths overall, and a 9% reduction in cardiovascular disease risk. That's a substantial benefit over a decade.
Wow, those numbers are compelling. But typically, more aggressive medical targets can come with trade-offs, right? Like more medication, which often means more side effects and potentially higher costs initially.
You're absolutely right to point that out. The study did indeed note that this intensive blood pressure management strategy resulted in a higher incidence of certain side effects, things like fainting or maybe kidney injury. And naturally, it incurs higher immediate treatment costs due to more frequent monitoring and potentially more prescriptions. However, the researchers argued that from a long-term cost-effectiveness perspective, the benefits of preventing severe health problems like debilitating strokes, heart attacks, and even kidney failure appear to justify this more aggressive approach. Avoiding a major cardiac event or, prolonged hospitalization can save substantial healthcare resources and improve quality of life significantly in the long run.
So it might involve more upfront investment in terms of managing treatment, but it pays off by preventing much more expensive and life-altering health crises down the line.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense from a broader healthcare system perspective. But you mentioned a debate earlier. What are the other major medical organizations recommending?
This is where the discrepancy truly lies, yeah. It creates a bit of a puzzle for clinicians. More conservative guidelines from influential organizations like the American College of Cardiology, ACC, and the American Heart Association, AHA, suggests a target of less than 130 millimeter Hg for most patients. The rationale often cites the importance of accommodating for potential inaccuracies in routine blood pressure readings. You know how it is.
Right.
Blood pressure can vary greatly depending on factors like the patient's stress level, the time of day, or even the specific technique and equipment used by the practitioner. Pushing below 120 millimeter Hg might mean overtreating someone whose true baseline is actually fine, based on maybe just a single slightly elevated reading. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the ideal physiological number, but also about the practical challenges of reliably measuring it in a busy doctor's office or even at home. This must create a real dilemma for doctors trying to decide the best course of action for each individual patient.
It absolutely does. This ongoing debate underscores a critical need for more precise and consistent blood pressure monitoring techniques, perhaps even more widespread use of continuous monitoring devices, and, robust patient education to facilitate effective self-management. The research also powerfully emphasizes the necessity for highly personalized approaches in blood pressure treatment plans. What's optimal and safest for one patient, considering their overall health, age, and existing conditions, might not be for another, especially when dealing with high-risk populations where the stakes are even higher. It really forces a deeper conversation between doctor and patient.
What's truly fascinating here is how this pushes the envelope on hypertension care. It's no longer just about hitting a single number. It's about understanding the intricate balance of risks, benefits, and the practical application of this knowledge for you and your doctor, fostering a more nuanced, individualized approach to health.
Okay, moving from the circulatory system to the brain, let's talk about our brain's very own internal GPS. That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
It does, doesn't it? But it's very much real and a burgeoning area of neuroscience. New research is delving into what scientists call latent structures and activities in specific brain regions that essentially form our brain's internal compass. These are the complex neurological mechanisms that govern our spatial awareness and navigation systems. In simpler terms, it's the brain's incredible ability to process where we are, how we orient ourselves in space, and how we plan and execute a route to get to where we want to go. So they're really mapping out the intricate neural pathways that allow our brains to keep track of us in the world. That could have immense implications for people who struggle with severe disorientation, a condition that can be incredibly debilitating, right?
Absolutely. Understanding these intricate mechanisms could lead to truly significant advancements in treatment modalities for disorientation-related disorders. We're talking about conditions like topographical disorientation, which can result from stroke, or, the early stages of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's. The ultimate goal is to develop highly targeted therapies, whether pharmacological or cognitive behavioral, aimed at alleviating these debilitating navigational deficits, thereby dramatically improving affected individuals' quality of life and independence.
It's not just about treating existing conditions, is it? The source also suggests this research could revolutionize virtual reality, which is already a pretty immersive field.
Precisely. Imagine the therapeutic potential here. VR, or virtual reality platforms, could be specifically engineered, using insights from this brain research to enhance spatial awareness and navigation skills. For instance, individuals suffering from mild cognitive impairment could engage in VR environments designed to challenge and strengthen their internal GPS, helping them maintain or even regain crucial cognitive functions. It's a promising avenue for cognitive rehabilitation, merging cutting-edge neuroscience with immersive technology.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it certainly appears that this interdisciplinary research, by merging advanced cognitive science with technological innovations like VR,
Right.
is profoundly enriching our understanding of spatial cognition, and indeed, the brain's remarkable and adaptable capacity to navigate a complex, spatially dynamic world. It hints at entirely new paradigms for brain health.
It truly does. It shows how fundamental breakthroughs can ripple outwards, impacting diverse fields and opening up entirely new avenues for both treatment and technological development. Now, on a more sobering note, let's discuss some new safety concerns regarding a very common, widely used over-the-counter painkiller, acetaminophen, perhaps better known to many as Tylenol. This concerns its use during pregnancy.
Tylenol.
Right.
I think for many expectant parents, Tylenol has historically been considered the go-to safe option for pain relief during pregnancy, especially when other medications like NSAIDs, nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are often avoided. What is changing this long-standing perception?
Well, that widely held perception is indeed being strongly challenged by a large-scale review of existing research. This comprehensive analysis has raised significant concerns, indicating a heightened risk of children being born with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, if expectant mothers use acetaminophen during pregnancy. This isn't just one small study, mind you, but a synthesis of multiple investigations.
Wow, that is a deeply serious concern for millions of parents. Are scientists starting to understand the underlying biological why behind this potential link, or is it purely correlational at this stage?
The review actually highlighted several plausible biological pathways that could link acetaminophen exposure to these neurodevelopmental risks. These include mechanisms such as oxidative stress, which is essentially an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in the body that can damage cells, and hormone disruption, which can interfere with the delicate hormonal environment crucial for fetal brain development. What truly strengthens the argument for a potential causal link, rather than just a coincidental correlation or maybe a shared environmental factor, is that the strongest associations were found in siblings.
Siblings,
Okay.
yeah.
This means if one child was exposed and developed a disorder, a sibling with similar exposure was also at higher risk, suggesting a direct effect rather than just, say, a genetic predisposition.
So this isn't merely a statistical correlation. It's potentially a direct impact from the medication interfering with crucial developmental processes. Wow. This raises an incredibly important question for expectant parents and healthcare providers worldwide about medications that have been widely accepted as safe and how our understanding of their long-term effects continues to evolve. What's the immediate recommendation for action here?
Experts are now urging for increased caution and a critical update to existing guidelines that prioritize the health of both mothers and newborns. The emphasis is shifting towards exploring safer alternative pain relief methods during pregnancy, and for healthcare providers to engage in a much more thorough risk-benefit discussion with their pregnant patients before recommending acetaminophen. It signifies a critical shift in medical advice for a medication that has been so, well, ubiquitous.
Yeah. This is undoubtedly something every expecting parent should discuss thoroughly with their healthcare provider. Okay. Shifting gears entirely from individual health decisions to innovative global health surveillance. Let's talk about a truly unique and somewhat unexpected approach, monitoring airplane waste.
This is a fascinating and, frankly, pragmatic solution to a growing global crisis. Antimicrobial resistance, or AMR. To give you some context, AMR refers to when bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites change over time and no longer respond to medicines, making infections harder to treat and increasing the risk of disease spread, severe illness, and death. It's currently estimated to result in approximately 1.3 million deaths annually, and is projected to skyrocket to 10 million deaths annually by 2050 if effective measures are not implemented. It truly is a silent pandemic in the making, already claiming more lives than HIV/AIDS or malaria.
10 million deaths a year. That's absolutely staggering, putting it in the same league as, wow, cancer or heart disease.
Okay.
So how do airplane lavatories, of all things, fit into tracking this global threat? I can only imagine the logistical and perhaps even aromatic challenges.
Yes, it's not the most glamorous aspect of public health, perhaps, but it's incredibly practical and ingenious. Researchers are proposing integrating data collected from aircraft lavatory waste into global surveillance systems. The core idea is to sample and analyze wastewater from international flights to track and respond to outbreaks of resistant infections before they escalate and spread widely across borders. Essentially, every international flight becomes a mobile, real-time data collection point for emerging health threats.
That's truly fascinating, turning airplanes into global health monitors. What's the specific mechanism involved? Are we talking about, like, collecting samples from every single plane that lands?
Well, the proposal involves developing standardized, rigorous protocols for both wastewater sampling and subsequent genomic sequencing from aircraft toilets. This would allow for the identification of specific pathogens and their resistance genes. Of course, this comes with considerable logistical challenges like ensuring proper sanitation and waste management at airports and on planes globally. And quite naturally, there are significant ethical and privacy concerns related to collecting genetic data this way, even if it's anonymized wastewater. Questions around data ownership, security, and potential for misuse would need to be meticulously addressed and legislated, I think.
Privacy concerns about toilet water DNA. That's certainly a novel legal and ethical frontier. But I can absolutely see the immense potential. Much like the COVID-19 pandemic vividly revealed how quickly pathogens can spread worldwide through global travel networks, this innovative approach could provide health authorities with an invaluable early warning system. It could prepare us for the next wave of resistant infections and critically inform global health policies, transforming us from being reactive to truly proactive.
It really could. The speed of global travel means pathogens don't respect national borders, and traditional surveillance methods can be slow. This offers a potential way to get ahead of them, providing critical lead time to implement public health interventions before localized outbreaks become global crises.
From the microscopic world of pathogens to the, well, unimaginably vastness of space, let's journey into the latest space exploration and discoveries. We're going to begin with a true historical milestone, Viking 1 and its enduring legacy, which laid a critical foundation for all subsequent Mars exploration.
Indeed. On August 20th, 1975, the Viking 1 spacecraft launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida, in the United States. It then made history nearly a year later, on July 20th, 1976, by successfully becoming the first spacecraft to make a soft landing on Mars. Its primary aim was remarkably ambitious for its time: to collect evidence regarding the potential for past or present life on the red planet, as well as to characterize the Martian atmosphere and surface.
So this wasn't just about the incredible engineering feat of getting there and landing safely, which is a massive challenge in itself. It was about actively looking for signs of life, all the way back in the mid-1970s. That's incredibly visionary and ambitious for that era.
Absolutely. The Viking mission carried sophisticated biological experiments designed to detect metabolic activity and organic compounds in the Martian soil. While the results were largely inconclusive regarding current life, they provided invaluable data that shaped our understanding of Mars. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this foundational mission laid the direct groundwork for much of NASA's, that's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, ongoing Mars exploration. Its data continues to inform the advanced rovers like Perseverance and Curiosity, and orbiting spacecraft like the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, or MRO. It also directly informs the ambitious Artemis missions, which are now set to establish a sustainable human presence on the Moon as a critical stepping stone for future crewed missions to Mars.
So that nearly 50-year-old mission isn't just a dusty entry in a history book. It's a living legacy, directly informing what we're doing on Mars today and what we plan to do with human missions in the future. Speaking of potential life beyond Earth, what else are we learning from distant worlds?
Recent NASA research, based on meticulous analysis of data from the Dawn mission, suggests that the dwarf planet Ceres may have harbored conditions suitable for microbial life billions of years ago. Ceres, for our listeners, is the largest object in the asteroid belt, located between Mars and Jupiter.
Ceres. That's not a celestial body that immediately springs to mind when I think of potential habitable zones. What made it suitable for life, especially billions of years ago, way out there in the asteroid belt?
Well, models developed from the Dawn mission's observations, which included detailed mapping of Ceres' surface and gravity field, conclude that approximately 2.5 billion years ago, Ceres' subsurface ocean, which we know existed, may have featured significant hydrothermal activity. This would have involved hot water interacting with rock, fostering a microbe-friendly environment. Crucially, it hosted a lasting source of chemical energy, likely from reactions between water and rock, which is absolutely essential for supporting potential microbial metabolisms, similar to what we see with extremophiles here on Earth.
But that was billions of years ago, right? So no intergalactic party on Ceres today. It sounds like its moment in the sun, or at least in the water, has passed.
Unfortunately, no current parties, no. Today, Ceres is far too cold, and its water, while still present in its interior, is largely frozen and less accessible. The conditions that allowed for potential habitability in the past have long since ceased. However, what's truly fascinating here is that this study provides crucial insights into the habitability of water-rich objects beyond Earth, especially those that aren't gas giants or icy moons like Europa or Enceladus. It underscores the ongoing scientific exploration for signs of ancient life in our solar system, expanding the potential real estate for past biological activity.
Okay, speaking of potential future human missions to Mars, Russia has recently launched a biosatellite mission, specifically to understand space's health effects on living organisms.
Yes, on August 20, Russia successfully launched its Bion-M number 2 biosatellite into Earth orbit from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. This is a significant month-long research project specifically designed to send 75 mice and 1,000 fruit flies into space. They're basically tiny biological laboratories floating in orbit.
Mice and fruit flies, the unsung heroes of biological space exploration. What's the primary scientific purpose of sending these small creatures up there for an entire month?
Well, the primary aim is to gather detailed data on the physiological and biological impacts of space conditions, particularly microgravity and radiation on these life forms. Mice are excellent mammalian models due to their genetic similarity to humans and their rapid life cycles, while fruit flies offer insights into genetic and developmental changes. This data is absolutely critical for understanding how long-duration space travel might affect human health in future ambitious missions, such as extended stays on the International Space Station or the incredibly challenging journey to Mars. They can experience bone density loss, muscle atrophy, and immune system changes, just like humans in space.
So they're essentially serving as tiny biological pioneers, paving the way for us to explore deeper into the cosmos.
Exactly. The meticulously gathered data from this mission could pave the way for developing effective countermeasures and strategies to mitigate any adverse effects of microgravity and space radiation on human health. This knowledge is fundamental to making extended human space travel safer, more sustainable, and ultimately more feasible for humanity's long-term aspirations beyond Earth.
And on the NASA side, the Artemis missions continue to forge ahead, really paving the way for not just lunar, but ultimately Martian futures. We talked about the Viking 1 connection earlier, but what are the latest and most exciting developments with the Artemis program?
NASA is currently buzzing with activity, yeah. They're opening media accreditation for events introducing their newest astronaut class, a highly selective group chosen from over 8,000 applications, which truly speaks to the incredible human desire to explore. Simultaneously, they're providing a critical briefing on the upcoming Artemis II crewed test flight, which is scheduled to send astronauts around the moon in 2026. This isn't just a hop, it's a significant test of capabilities.
8,000 applications. That's an incredible number of people dreaming of space. And a crewed flight around the moon in 2026 that's right around the corner, truly exciting. I heard they even had a major dress rehearsal recently.
Indeed, they did. The Artemis II astronauts recently suited up for a full-scale nighttime moon launch dress rehearsal, simulating every step of the launch sequence, from pre-launch preparations to strapping into the Orion spacecraft. This was a crucial step in rigorously testing NASA's complex systems and procedures, from ground control to the crew's readiness. The larger vision for Artemis is profound. It not only aims to land humans on the moon again, marking humanity's return after decades, but it's fundamentally focused on developing the necessary technologies and international partnerships for sustainable future exploration, with Mars as the ultimate horizon.
So the moon isn't just the destination in itself. It's being meticulously prepared as a vital proving ground and stepping stone for humanity's journey to Mars. Interesting. Speaking of cutting-edge tech, the U.S. Space Force is apparently testing a groundbreaking quantum navigation system using its incredibly secretive X-37B spaceplane.
That's correct. The X-37B, an unmanned, reusable spaceplane known for its long-duration, mysterious missions, is gearing up to test this groundbreaking quantum navigation system. This innovative approach aims to create a highly robust and secure alternative to the Global Positioning System, or GPS, which, while indispensable, is currently vulnerable to various disruptions, including jamming, spoofing, or even potential attacks in contested environments.
Quantum navigation. That really does sound like something pulled straight from a next-level science fiction movie. What exactly are the benefits of a quantum system over our traditional GPS, beyond just being less vulnerable?
Well, the technology promises significantly higher precision in positioning, navigation, and timing. Unlike GPS, which relies on signals from satellites, quantum navigation systems could use principles of quantum mechanics, such as atomic clocks and quantum sensors, to maintain highly accurate position data independently. This offers an unprecedented level of accuracy and resilience, which could revolutionize navigation capabilities in the most challenging environments, particularly deep space explorations where traditional GPS signals are non-existent or ineffective, or maybe in military scenarios where GPS might be compromised.
That's where it gets really interesting. Navigating deep space with pinpoint accuracy without relying on Earth-based signals, that's a game changer for future interstellar travel. And the James Webb Space Telescope, or JWST, continues to deliver groundbreaking discoveries seemingly every week. It recently discovered a hidden moon around Uranus.
Yes, it did, and it's a testament to the JWST's incredible sensitivity and infrared capabilities. The telescope discovered a new, tiny moon orbiting the ice giant Uranus. It's now officially designated as S2025U1, S/2025U1, and is approximately 6 miles in diameter, making it the 31st natural satellite confirmed around Uranus. What's truly fascinating here is that this tiny moon completely eluded detection during the Voyager 2 mission's flyby back in 1986, despite that mission conducting close observations of the planet.
A moon that even Voyager 2 missed, despite its direct encounter with Uranus decades ago. Wow, that really showcases the incredible power and unprecedented sensitivity of the James Webb Space Telescope. And it's not just finding new moons, the JWST is also looking at incredibly ancient cosmic explosions, right?
Correct. Astronomers recently successfully traced a powerful cosmic explosion, known as a gamma ray burst, back an astounding 12 billion years using the Einstein probe, which is a European Space Agency mission designed to detect transient X-ray events. This particular event is monumental because it represents the most distant occurrence where scientists can directly observe light escaping from surrounding stars rather than just the general glow of a galaxy. This provides unprecedented data, deepening our comprehension of the very earliest phases of stellar evolution and star formation in the nascent universe, just a couple of billion years after the Big Bang.
12 billion years.
Mm.
It's truly mind-boggling to even try and comprehend such immense timescales. And another massive find, an enormous stellar bubble that's even larger than our entire solar system.
Indeed, astronomers, using various observational techniques, uncovered a colossal bubble of gas and dust, stretching hundreds of astronomical units, which is indeed larger than our entire solar system, enveloping the red supergent star DFK 52. DFK 52. This discovery is highly unusual because such massive bubbles aren't typically associated with single red supergiants. It raises significant questions about its unique and unusual life cycle, leading astronomers to speculate that it might be influenced by a hidden companion star, perhaps a white dwarf or neutron star, whose gravitational interactions could be sculpting this enormous bubble. It challenges conventional theories about how these massive stars evolve and interact with their surroundings.
Truly astonishing. Okay, from distant colossal stars to our own asteroid belt, recent research has also confirmed that two intriguing near-Earth asteroids, Bennu and Ryugu, share a common origin.
That's right. These two carbon-rich asteroids, which have both been visited and sampled by spacecraft, are now believed to be fragments of the same, much larger parent asteroid, likely Polana, which resides in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. This groundbreaking insight came from a painstaking spectroscopic analysis comparing data from JWST, NASA's OSIRIS-REx, that's the Origins, spectral interpretation, resource identification, Security Regolith Explorer mission, and Japan's Hayabusa 2 missions.
So these two asteroids that we've actually studied up close, bringing back samples to Earth, they're cosmic cousins, born from the same cosmic parent. What's the broader significance of confirming this shared origin?
Well, it reveals compelling spectral similarities in their composition, suggesting these bodies hold invaluable keys to understanding the chemical makeup and formation processes of the early solar system. By studying these pristine samples, we gain insights into the building blocks of planets. And perhaps more immediately relevant for us on Earth, Bennu is identified as a potentially hazardous asteroid with a non-zero, though small, 1 in F-350 chance of impacting Earth in the 22nd century. Understanding its origins and composition helps us better predict its trajectory and potential mitigation strategies.
That's quite the detail to keep in mind for future generations. Now, this next one is interesting, how planets within our own solar system might actually be protecting us from solar storms.
This is truly a marvel of celestial mechanics. A recent study highlights the potential and largely unrecognized role of gravitational interactions between Earth, Venus, and Jupiter in mitigating the intensity of powerful solar storms emanating from the Sun. These immense planetary tidal forces can actually influence solar activity, specifically by perturbing the Sun's magnetic field, leading to a reduction in the frequency and intensity of extreme solar storms that are directed towards Earth.
So, our cosmos neighbors are acting like a kind of celestial shield, subtly influencing the sun's behavior to protect us. That's incredibly comforting, especially given how disruptive solar events can be to our modern technological infrastructure.
Exactly. Solar events, particularly large coronal mass ejections, pose significant risks to Earth satellites, which are crucial for communication and navigation, as well as our power grids and other technological infrastructure. Major solar storms in the past, like the Carrington event in 1859, caused widespread telegraph disruptions. A similar event today could have catastrophic economic and societal consequences. So, understanding these natural mitigating factors like planetary tidal forces is crucial for our preparedness and for developing better space weather forecasting models.
What's truly fascinating here is how intricately interconnected our solar system truly is, with even subtle gravitational forces having profound protective effects. Beyond these groundbreaking discoveries, for all you dedicated skywatchers out there, what astronomical events are coming up on the calendar?
Well, mark your calendars for September 21st, 2025. A partial solar eclipse will occur, which will be visible from various locations in the South Pacific. For those in the prime viewing areas, the moon will cover up to 85% of the sun's surface, creating a spectacular celestial display.
85% coverage for a partial eclipse is quite significant. And then there's something called a black moon, which sounds incredibly mysterious. What exactly is a black moon?
It does sound quite enigmatic, yeah. A black moon isn't something you can actually observe. It's an informal astronomical term that refers to the second new moon in a single calendar month. A new moon is inherently unobservable from Earth because the moon is between the sun and Earth, and its illuminated side is facing away from us. While unobservable to the naked eye, it contributes to our understanding of lunar cycles and the broader dynamics of our solar system, providing useful markers for astronomers.
So, not something to look for in the sky with your binoculars, but still important to astronomers for understanding celestial mechanics.
Got it. And back to Mars, what's NASA's Curiosity rover, our tenacious robotic geologist, up to these days? NASA's Curiosity rover recently encountered a formidable feature. It's dubbed Rio Frio, which is essentially a challenging wall of stacked stones on Mars. This natural formation is posing a significant navigation challenge for the rover's path, but in classic Curiosity fashion, it also offers a new and exciting opportunity. It provides an ideal vantage point to analyze the internal structure and chemical composition of the ridge's materials, offering unprecedented insights that will greatly enhance our understanding of Mars's geological history and the processes that shaped its surface over billions of years.
It's amazing that after all these years, Curiosity is still finding new geological puzzles and opportunities for discovery on Mars. It truly exemplifies the spirit of enduring exploration. Okay, from the wonders of the cosmos, let's bring it back down to Earth and dive into the fascinating, sometimes complex world of innovation and the ethical dilemmas that technology often presents. Google recently had its major hardware launch event, showcasing their latest foldables and emphasizing a deep integration of artificial intelligence, or AI.
Yes, Google unveiled its much-anticipated Pixel 10 Pro Fold, which they're touting as the world's first truly dust-proof foldable phone. This is a significant engineering feat, addressing a major durability concern that has plagued previous foldable devices. Key features highlighted include an advanced hinge technology designed for robust longevity, exceptionally high-resolution displays, and an upgraded, powerful camera system that promises professional-grade photography.
Dustproof. That is a huge deal for foldable phones.
Yeah.
Previous generations have had some real durability concerns with microscopic particles causing damage, and it seems Google is really pushing AI into absolutely every corner of its ecosystem, aren't they?
Absolutely. The launch event wasn't just about the hardware. It was a clear demonstration of Google's strategic pivot towards pervasive AI. They introduced significant updates to Gemini, which is Google's large language model and foundational AI development. Gemini is expected to profoundly enhance user experience across various platforms, including the new Pixel 10 smartphones, the Pixel Watch, and even their broader suite of services. This reflects Google's overarching strategy to seamlessly integrate cutting-edge AI technology into user-friendly devices, aiming to appeal to both everyday users seeking convenience and tech enthusiasts looking for the next big thing.
So it's not just about a standalone device, it's about an entire interconnected ecosystem working together, powered by increasingly sophisticated AI. Okay. And speaking of AI, Google's AI mode feature is expanding globally, promising much more than just enhanced search capabilities.
This is where it gets really interesting and hints at the future of digital assistants, I think. Google is indeed expanding its AI mode feature globally to 180 new countries for English-speaking users. This allows them to ask complex, multi-layered questions and engaging in follow-up conversations directly within Google Search, moving beyond simple keyboard queries.
That's a massive rollout, fundamentally changing how many people might interact with search engines. But the real game changer sounds like these new agentic features you mentioned. What exactly are those and what can they do?
These new agentic features represent a significant leap in AI's capabilities. They go beyond just retrieving information, they perform actions on your behalf. For example, they can help users make restaurant reservations based on a wide array of preferences, such as cuisine type, dietary restrictions, preferred ambiance, and even real-time availability, by searching and interacting with multiple reservation platforms simultaneously. This level of personalized, automated task completion is currently available to Google AI Ultra subscribers at a premium price of $249.99 a month.
$250 a month for AI to book your dinner reservations. That is certainly a premium service. But I can absolutely see the allure of that level of convenience and personalization, especially for busy professionals or those who really value their time highly.
Indeed. Users subscribing to this tier will also enjoy deeply personalized search results tailored to their individual past behaviors and preferences, and a new sharing ability, which will significantly facilitate group planning and collaboration. It's about making AI a true personal assistant, capable of proactive task management, though, as you noted, the cost certainly limits its widespread adoption for now, positioning it more as a luxury or business tier service.
What's truly fascinating here is the sheer ambition of integrating AI into such practical, everyday, and sometimes tedious tasks. But all this AI processing, all these massive data centers that power these complex algorithms, they require immense, unprecedented amounts of energy. Oracle Corporation, for example, is planning a giant new data center powered primarily by gas generators.
Oracle Corporation is indeed planning to utilize gas generators to power a massive new data center, a move directly aligning with its ambition to significantly enhance its capabilities in artificial intelligence projects and large-scale data management. This decision reflects the gargantuan power requirements of modern AI workloads, which are far more energy-intensive than traditional computing.
So while we're constantly talking about the global push towards green and renewable energy in other sectors, here's a tech giant turning to traditional fossil fuels to power its future. That certainly reflects a broader concerning industry trend, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. This move by Oracle reflects a broader, often difficult trend in how tech giants are making energy choices to sustain their rapidly expanding operations amidst global energy challenges and sustainability pressures. They're balancing the imperative for energy efficiency with the almost insatiable, power-intensive requirements of AI workloads and data storage. It starkly highlights the significant and growing energy footprint of the AI revolution and the complex trade-offs involved in scaling these technologies.
This raises an important question for all of us. How do we responsibly power the future of technology, especially AI, while simultaneously addressing the urgent demands of climate change and transitioning to cleaner energy sources? And while AI offers incredible potential and convenience, there's also a deeply cautionary tale about its darker side, particularly regarding deception and its emotional toll.
This is a truly poignant and heartbreaking story that serves as a powerful reminder of AI's potential for unforeseen emotional impact. It involves Thongbu Wangbandu, a retiree in Thailand who became completely captivated by online interactions with a woman he believed was real. He developed a deep emotional connection over time. Tragically, after his passing, his wife made the devastating discovery that all his heartfelt conversations were not with a real person, but with a sophisticated chatbot.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking to hear. The human need for connection, especially as we age and perhaps become more isolated, is incredibly powerful. For AI to exploit that so cruelly, it's a profound betrayal.
It truly is. This incident raises critical concerns about the ethical implications and the emotional impacts of AI interactions, particularly on vulnerable individuals like the elderly, who may be less digitally savvy or more susceptible to loneliness. It highlights the increasingly blurring distinction between genuine human connections and artificial engagements, and the potential for deep emotional manipulation. It's a stark reminder of the unforeseen consequences of our increasing reliance on technology for social interaction and the ethical guardrails we need to consider.
So, what does this all mean for the fundamental human need for connection in an increasingly digital age? And what are the potentially unforeseen consequences of technological reliance when it comes to our deepest emotional vulnerabilities? It's a question we'll undoubtedly face more and more as AI becomes more sophisticated and integrated into our lives. Shifting gears from personal deception to broader state control, Russia has recently mandated a new messaging app for its citizens.
That's correct. Starting September 1st, Russia has mandated that a state-backed messaging application named MAX, must be pre-installed on all mobile phones and tablets sold within the country. This isn't an optional app, it's a compulsory one.
So it's basically their version of WhatsApp,
Yeah.
but with what sounds like significant government oversight and integration. This definitely sounds like a concerted step towards tightening state control over digital communications.
It is. Max is actively portrayed as a direct competitor to popular foreign messaging services like WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal. Crucially, it is deeply integrated with Russian government services and public information channels. Critics, both domestically and internationally, have expressed profound concern that this mandatory pre-installation will significantly augment the state's surveillance capabilities, allowing for easier monitoring of citizens' private communications and thereby tightening the state's grip on digital communication and information flow. This directive strongly reflects Russia's ongoing efforts to reduce its reliance on foreign technology and vigorously promote state-controlled alternatives, effectively enhancing its control over the national information space.
And speaking of surveillance and its implications for civil liberties, Amnesty International recently published a concerning report regarding AI surveillance tactics employed by authorities in the United States.
Amnesty International reported that U.S. authorities have been employing advanced AI technologies from companies like Palantir Technologies and Babel Street to monitor pro-Palestinian protests across the country. The report specifically highlights concerns that these technologies were used for targeted surveillance of immigrants and non-citizens participating in these demonstrations. This raises immediate red flags about the potential for discriminatory application of surveillance tech.
This sounds like a direct and serious challenge to civil liberties, particularly the rights to free speech and assembly. What are the specific human rights implications that Amnesty International is pointing to here?
It raises very significant concerns about the fundamental principles of civil liberties, the potential for widespread abuses of power, and a severe lack of transparency surrounding the deployment and use of AI for surveillance purposes in the context of social movements and public demonstrations. Amnesty International specifically articulated worries about the chilling effect this could have on free expression and the right to protest, particularly when targeting specific demographic groups like immigrants. They've called for an urgent reassessment of how surveillance technologies are employed, emphasizing the need for robust oversight, accountability, and clear legal frameworks, particularly in contexts involving public demonstrations and advocacy for humanitarian rights.
This raises an incredibly important and quite urgent question for all of us. How do we, as a democratic society, balance the legitimate needs of national security and public order with the fundamental rights to protest, privacy, and free expression in an increasingly tech-enabled and AI-driven world? It's a conversation that clearly needs to happen now. Now, let's move into the complex and ever-shifting landscape of global geopolitics and ongoing conflicts, starting with the Ukraine conflict. There's been a concerning drone incident that has significantly heightened tensions in Poland.
Indeed. Polish officials recently announced that a drone crash in a cornfield near Osini, a village in southeastern Poland, was definitively a Russian provocation. Preliminary technical findings indicate the object was a variant of the Iranian-designed Shahed drone, which has been extensively used by Russia in Ukraine. What's particularly alarming is that it was likely a decoy, equipped with a self-destruct mechanism that detonated upon impact, destroying most of the evidence.
A self-destruct mechanism on a drone found within NATO territory. That's not just a technical detail, it's a highly provocative act. And Poland, as both an EU, European Union, and a NATO North Atlantic Treaty Organization member, is understandably viewing this as a serious escalation.
Exactly. Poland considers this a clear aggravation of the already tense situation that has prevailed since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began back in February 2022. The Polish government intends to formally protest this violation of its airspace and sovereignty, emphasizing the ongoing risks of spillover from the conflict into neighboring countries. It's a stark reminder of how close the conflict is to NATO's eastern flank.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been consistently very clear about his terms for any potential peace settlement.
President Zelensky has unequivocally emphasized that security guarantees are the key issue and must serve as the fundamental starting point for any potential resolution to the ongoing conflict. He has repeatedly stated that mere assurances on paper are insufficient, drawing parallels to past agreements that failed to deter aggression. What he is seeking are distinct, enforceable measures and commitments from international partners that would genuinely ensure Ukraine's long-term safety and territorial integrity, preventing future aggressions.
So he's not just looking for a verbal agreement or a handshake deal. He wants something concrete, tangible, and enforceable that genuinely secures Ukraine's long-term safety and sovereignty. Okay. How does Russia view this concept of collective security in Europe?
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has presented a starkly different perspective. He recently asserted that collective security in Europe cannot be effectively addressed without Russia's involvement, positioning Russia as an indispensable player in any future European security architecture. He categorically rejected propositions of deploying NATO forces in Ukraine, viewing it as a direct threat. Furthermore, Lavrov claims that previous negotiations for peace collapsed specifically due to what he termed external interference, implying Western influence undermined potential agreements.
Two very different, almost diametrically opposed perspectives on what security looks like for Europe. And U.S. President Donald Trump has also weighed in on the risk of the Ukraine conflict escalating, offering his own perspective.
U.S. President Donald Trump stated that the risk of the Ukraine conflict escalating into World War III has diminished since he took office. He attributes this de-escalation to what he describes as a strategic shift in U.S. foreign policy, specifically highlighting increased dialogue with Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Trump described a recent Alaska meeting with President Putin as productive, suggesting that direct engagement has lowered tensions.
Productive dialogue between President Trump and President Putin, that's certainly a different approach than we've seen at other times in this conflict. And this new stance, along with ongoing concerns, seems to have European leaders on edge, leading to some intensive diplomatic efforts to influence President Trump.
European leaders are indeed intensifying their efforts to influence President Trump regarding his Ukraine policies, particularly any potential negotiations with President Putin. This situation raises an important question that is hotly debated among analysts. Is this intensified lobbying a sign of genuine European strength, demonstrating their ability to unify against Russia and present a coherent front? Or, conversely, does it reflect a fundamental weakness and dependence on the United States, thereby suggesting a public display of subordination to American leadership in managing a crisis on their own continent? It's a complex dynamic with different interpretations.
It's a fascinating and critical dynamic. Are they approaching the U.S. president as an equal partner in a transatlantic alliance, or as a necessary but perhaps unpredictable patron whose support they absolutely need? What's the grim situation on the ground in Ukraine, particularly regarding military manpower and the increasing role of technology?
The situation on the ground, particularly concerning manpower, is dire. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky recently revealed a significant manpower crisis, estimating staggering losses of nearly 2 million troops since the full-scale invasion. This critical shortage has directly led to plans to urgently deploy robotic systems on the battlefield, aiming to compensate for human losses and reduce risk to remaining soldiers. Separately, Ukrainian lawmaker Alexei Goncharenko went as far as suggesting recruiting millions of foreign fighters to augment their sources, criticizing current conscription methods as brutal and ineffective, which highlights the desperation of the situation.
Robotic systems fighting alongside or instead of human soldiers, and calls for millions of foreign fighters that paints a truly dire picture of the manpower situation and the nature of modern warfare. And some experts have raised serious concerns about the American funding going into Ukraine, specifically through the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USA.
Yes. Experts have voiced significant concerns, alleging that American funding, particularly through the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, has inadvertently transformed Ukraine into a hub for money laundering, benefiting specific interests in Washington. These concerns claim that significant funds have reportedly been lost to mismanagement and corruption, particularly following a temporary freeze on foreign aid to Ukraine that was imposed by President Trump's administration. These allegations suggest that the aid, intended for humanitarian and development purposes, may have been diverted or misused.
That's a truly serious accusation of misused funds, especially when global support for Ukraine is so critical. And in another domestic move impacting intelligence operations, the U.S. is reportedly dismantling what was known as the Russian Influence Center.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard recently announced plans to dismantle the Foreign Malign Influence Center, FMIC. The center was established in 2019 under a previous administration with the explicit purpose of combating foreign interference in U.S. elections and domestic affairs. Gabbard has been a vocal critic, arguing that the FMIC is redundant and that it was allegedly misused by previous administrations to restrict free speech and silence political opposition, rather than focusing solely on foreign threats.
That's a pretty strong stance against the center specifically designed to combat foreign interference, implying it was used for domestic political purposes instead. That's a significant shift in how the U.S. government plans to address foreign influence campaigns. Moving now to the deeply complex and often tragic Israel-Palestine conflict, which continues to see escalating violence and significant international fallout.
The situation remains extremely volatile, yes. The Israeli military has initiated what it terms the first stages of an assault on Gaza City, signaling a significant escalation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has publicly stated he is accelerating the operation despite considerable internal and external opposition. This includes the mobilization of an additional 60,000 reservists, which indicates a massive commitment of resources and points towards a potential prolonged and intensive engagement.
60,000 reservists. That's a truly massive mobilization, reflecting the gravity of this phase of the conflict. And understandably, the families of the Israeli hostages held in Gaza are incredibly concerned and fearful for their loved ones' lives.
They are expressing profound anguish, yeah. Relatives of Israeli hostages have issued stark warnings that the Gaza City offensive could effectively be a death sentence for their loved ones caught in the crossfire or potentially targeted in military operations. This adds an incredibly critical and painful humanitarian dimension to the military strategy, creating an agonizing dilemma for the Israeli government.
This raises an incredibly difficult question. How does a military balance the imperative of an offensive designed to achieve its objectives with the paramount concern for the lives of its own citizens held captive by the opposing force? Internationally, it seems there's growing pressure and even calls for sanctions against Israel.
That's certainly the case. A recent Reuters Ipsos poll conducted in the United States shows that a significant majority, 59% of Americans, now deem Israel's military actions in Gaza excessive. Furthermore, 58% of Americans express support for international recognition of Palestine as a state. In the United Kingdom, over 700 prominent business leaders have collectively urged their government for an arms embargo against Israel and to impose sanctions against individuals violating international law, reflecting growing international concern over the humanitarian situation.
That's a significant shift in public opinion, at least in the U.S., and a strong call from the UK business community. But the U.S. seems to be pushing back quite forcefully against international legal bodies, specifically targeting the International Criminal Court, or ICC.
This is a point of considerable international tension. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently announced additional sanctions against the International Criminal Court, ICC, specifically targeting a French judge involved in the controversial process of issuing an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The U.S. government took the extraordinary step of labeling the ICC a national security threat due to its efforts to prosecute individuals for alleged war crimes, arguing that it oversteps its jurisdiction and undermines sovereignty. The ICC, in turn, described these U.S. actions as a blatant attack on its judicial independence, highlighting the deep divide over international legal authority.
Labeling the ICC, an international judicial body, a national security threat, is a very strong and, well, unprecedented statement from the U.S., essentially rejecting its authority and jurisdiction over certain cases, and tensions are also extremely high over new West Bank settlements.
Yes. The Israeli government recently approved a contentious settlement project in the West Bank, which involves expanding existing settlements and potentially establishing new ones. The Palestinian Authority swiftly condemned this decision, arguing it is illegal under international law and poses a direct threat to the viability of a two-state solution by fragmenting Palestinian territory and making a contiguous state impossible. This action has predictably intensified already fraught tensions in the region.
This action undeniably raises an important question about the long-term prospects for any peaceful resolution in the region and the very possibility of a two-state solution. And there's been some very public and very sharp friction between Prime Minister Netanyahu and French President Emmanuel Macron.
The diplomatic exchange was indeed quite heated. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu publicly criticized French President Emmanuel Macron for his initiative to recognize Palestinian statehood, accusing Macron of exacerbating anti-Semitism by pushing for such recognition at this time. The Élysée Palace, Macron's office, quickly retorted, labeling Netanyahu's accusation a conflation and manipulation of serious issues. Macron himself later condemned Israeli actions in Gaza, emphasizing the catastrophic humanitarian situation and calling for a permanent ceasefire and significantly increased humanitarian aid. This came amidst alarming reports of Palestinian casualties exceeding 62,000 since October 2023, according to local health authorities.
Those are incredibly high casualty numbers, underscoring the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding. And with the intensifying offensive on Gaza City, there have also been significant anti-war protests within Gaza itself.
Yes, Gaza City recently witnessed a significant anti-war protest, with thousands of residents taking to the streets, bravely voicing their opposition to the escalating violence and passionately calling for peace and urgent international intervention. These protests emerged amidst profound fears of the impending large-scale military operation and the already devastating toll on civilian lives and infrastructure. It was a desperate plea from a population under immense duress.
So, a growing humanitarian crisis, coupled with a desperate public plea from the civilian population caught in the heart of the conflict. Shifting gears across Europe, there's been a significant breakthrough arrest in the mysterious Nord Stream pipeline explosions.
This is a major development in a case that has been shrouded in geopolitical mystery since September 2022. German prosecutors have now announced a significant breakthrough in their investigation of the Nord Stream pipeline explosions, which severely damaged the critical gas infrastructure under the Baltic Sea. A Ukrainian national, identified as Serhike, was arrested near Rimini, Italy. He is suspected of directly coordinating the placement of explosives on the pipelines.
This is a huge, huge development, given the massive economic and political fallout from those explosions. What are the broader geopolitical ramifications of this arrest?
Well, the explosions rendered both Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines, which were crucial for transporting Russian gas to Europe, inoperable, severely straining diplomatic relations across the continent. While the Ukrainian government has vehemently denied any involvement in the attacks, German authorities are reportedly still pursuing a suspected ringleader, identified as Volodymyr Z. This incident and the ongoing investigation raise profound concerns about the vulnerability of critical energy infrastructure globally and, crucially, the potentially destabilizing influence of non-state actors or covert operations on broader geopolitical stability and energy markets.
A truly complex and deeply impactful web of geopolitical intrigue, with a critical piece of the puzzle now apparently in hand. Now let's look at India's strategic moves, particularly a recent missile test and its ongoing oil imports, which have caused some friction.
India recently conducted a successful test of its Agni-5 missile, an intermediate-range ballistic missile, or IRBM, capable of carrying multiple nuclear warheads. This missile is a significant component of India's strategic deterrent capabilities, designed for long-range strikes. Its impressive range effectively covers almost all of Asia and extends into parts of Europe, solidifying India's position as a formidable nuclear power.
That's a significant show of military strength and strategic capabilities, certainly sending a message globally. And speaking of strategy, India's foreign minister has expressed what he termed confusion over new U.S. secondary sanctions recently imposed on India specifically for its continued purchasing of Russian oil.
Yes. India's foreign minister publicly highlighted that India is not, in fact, the largest buyer of Russian oil. He pointed out that countries like China, and even members of the European Union, continue to import greater volumes. India called the impending 25% U.S. tariff on its refined oil products unfair and unreasonable, stating emphatically that they were initially encouraged by the U.S. to purchase Russian oil at discounted prices to help stabilize volatile global energy markets following the sanctions against Russia.
So India is essentially saying, you, the U.S., told us to help stabilize the global energy market by buying discounted Russian oil, and now you're penalizing us for it. This definitely raises an important question about the consistency and sometimes contradictory nature of international foreign policy and economic pressure.
It absolutely does. It highlights the complex and often contradictory nature of global energy politics and trade relations, where national interests and geopolitical pressures can create difficult dilemmas for countries like India trying to navigate a volatile global economy. And speaking of energy dilemmas, Taiwan is currently facing a critical decision with a major nuclear referendum.
Taiwan is an incredibly important geopolitical flashpoint, and its energy choices have huge implications, especially amid increasing military threats and economic pressure from mainland China.
Taiwan is indeed at a critical juncture. Voters are heading to the polls for a pivotal referendum on whether to restart the Manshan nuclear power plant, which was controversially shut down in May of this year. The decision is fraught with complex considerations and has sparked intense public debate.
So it's a direct choice between national energy security and environmental concerns, particularly for a seismically active region. What are the core arguments on both sides?
Well, the debate reveals deep divisions. On one side, proponents argue that restarting Manshan is vital for national energy security, particularly amid increasing military threats from China, which could disrupt energy imports. Nuclear power offers a stable, consistent baseload power source, reducing reliance on imported fossil fuels. On the other side, environmental groups and safety advocates raise serious concerns about environmental risks and geological instability given Taiwan's location in a seismically active zone. They point to the risks of earthquakes and the challenges of nuclear waste disposal. Polls, however, suggest a majority support for the plant's restart, which will have profound implications for Taiwan's long-term energy policy and its broader geopolitical stance, impacting everything from its industrial output to its strategic autonomy.
That's a really tough choice, weighing immediate strategic needs against long-term environmental and safety concerns. And on the topic of U.S. influence, the Bolivian president has made some very strong claims about U.S. military intervention in Latin America.
Bolivian President Luis Arce recently delivered a sharp condemnation of the recent deployment of American armed forces to the southern Caribbean region. He explicitly argued that this military presence, while ostensibly framed as part of a cooperative fight against drug trafficking, actually serves as a thinly veiled cover for the United States' broader pursuit of political and economic domination in Latin America.
He's essentially calling the drug war a pretext for something else, a cover for continued U.S. exploitation and control in the region.
Precisely. President Arce asserted that the U.S. military presence, despite its stated anti-narcotics mission, is in fact an attempt to exploit Latin America's vast natural resources, which are abundant in minerals and other strategic materials. He also claimed it's an effort to dismantle societies that actively resist foreign influence or pursue independent economic and political paths. This strong stance reflects a growing unease and historical skepticism among many Latin American leaders regarding perceived U.S. interventionist policies and their historical impact on the region.
So what does this all mean for perceptions of U.S. foreign policy in the region? It sounds like there's significant and growing skepticism and a reevaluation of historical narratives. And here in the U.S., there have been some striking internal political maneuvers directly involving President Trump.
U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly considering a highly unusual move, firing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. This consideration stems from serious, albeit unproven, allegations of mortgage fraud against her. This action is framed by some analysts as part of a broader pressure campaign by President Trump on the Federal Reserve, an institution traditionally considered independent of political influence. Critics have described this potential action as a revenge tool against political adversaries or those perceived as disloyal, raising significant concerns about the integrity and fiercely guarded independence of the U.S. central bank, which is crucial for economic stability.
A revenge tool against adversaries within the Federal Reserve, a body meant to be apolitical. That's an extraordinary accusation, and if true, it would severely undermine confidence in America's financial institutions. And speaking of political battles, there's been a contentious redistricting battle playing out in Texas.
Texas lawmakers recently approved a new congressional redistricting map, a process that determines how electoral districts are drawn. This new map is widely expected to significantly favor Republican candidates in future elections, potentially solidifying their power for the next decade. This approval came despite vigorous attempts by Democratic lawmakers to delay the process, in part by tying it to the highly anticipated release of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier. This contentious process highlights the deep partisan divisions over representation and electoral fairness that continue to shape U.S. politics.
That's quite a political maneuver, to link redistricting to the Epstein documents, demonstrating the lengths to which political parties will go to gain an advantage. And President Trump's administration has also expanded what it terms an anti-woke campaign directly into American museums.
That's right. The President Trump administration has expanded its highly publicized campaign against what it broadly terms woke ideologies to 7 flagship museums across the United States. This includes institutions like the Smithsonian. The administration is openly criticizing these museums for what it perceives as an excessive focus on historical injustices, such as slavery, arguing that such emphasis is skewing public perception and presenting an unbalanced view of American history. This move has predictably sparked widespread concerns among historians, curators, and museum professionals about the potential for a chilling effect on open and honest curation, academic freedom, and critical dialogue about the complexities of American history.
That's a direct challenge to how history is interpreted, presented, and understood by the public, and it's a battle over historical narrative. And President Trump also recently made a very controversial statement about the 2028 elections.
President Donald Trump's recent assertion that there may be no elections in 2028 has ignited considerable controversy and widespread disbelief across the political spectrum. Critics from various backgrounds have expressed profound concerns that such statements fundamentally undermine democratic processes, erode public trust in elections, and set a dangerous precedent by questioning the very foundation of electoral legitimacy.
That's a truly provocative and alarming statement for many, given the bedrock importance of regular, free, and fair elections in a democracy. And finally, on the domestic front, we've seen some incidents involving the District of Columbia D.C. National Guard, which have even been satirized on a popular TV show.
Yes. In one incident, protesters heckled J.D. Vance, a prominent member of President Trump's team, during a photo opportunity with the D.C. National Guard, highlighting the politicized environment around public appearances. Separately, a civilian was unfortunately injured in a crash involving a D.C. National Guard military vehicle, raising questions about operational procedures. Meanwhile, the latest episode of the satirical animated show South Park specifically took aim at a federal takeover of D.C. police, drawing clear connections to President Trump's influence over the nation's capital and its law enforcement, reflecting public discourse and concerns.
So a blend of real-world incidents, some involving injury, and satirical commentary reflecting ongoing debates about federal authority, local law enforcement, and political influence in the nation's capital. It's clear that even the D.C. National Guard isn't immune from political scrutiny or popular culture commentary. Shifting now from the political to the financial, let's talk about some major economic shifts and market trends. The big box retailer Target is undergoing some significant leadership changes, signaling struggles against its competitors.
Indeed. Target Corporation, a prominent retail giant, has announced the appointment of Michael Fiddelke as its new CEO effective February 1, 2026. This leadership change is part of a deliberate strategy to reverse the retailer's recent struggles and regain ground against fierce competitors like Walmart Inc. and Amazon.com Inc. The current CEO, Brian Cornell, will transition to an executive chairman role, indicating a managed succession.
So an internal hire for CEO, which often indicates continuity, but in this case is part of a larger turnaround strategy. It sounds like Target has been having a particularly tough time against its rivals.
They certainly have. The company has been grappling with a confluence of challenging issues, including a significant rise in retail crime, often referred to as shrink, which impacts profitability, ongoing poor inventory management that led to overstocking of certain items and understocking of others, rapidly changing consumer preferences in a dynamic market, and the persistent pressure of rising inflation impacting consumer spending power. The announcement of the new CEO was met with investor skepticism, as Target stock dropped by 10% immediately after, signaling doubts about whether an internal hire can provide the radical changes needed. And in a separate, alarming development that hit their bottom line, Target terminated hundreds of employees at its Chicago, Illinois location due to allegations of a widespread internal fraud scheme involving a loophole that resulted in losses exceeding $1 million. The company has publicly pledged to significantly enhance its internal controls to prevent future occurrences.
Wow, $1 million internal fraud scheme on top of all the other market and operational challenges. That's an immense set of inherited problems for the new CEO. Speaking of struggles, the tech sector has seen significant volatility, with the Nasdaq Composite Index declining for a second consecutive day.
That's right. The Nasdaq Composite Index, which is heavily weighted towards technology and growth stocks, experienced a decline for a second consecutive trading day. This downturn was primarily driven by widespread weakness in major technology stocks, including bellwether companies like NVIDIA Corporation, Palantir Technologies, Inc., and Intel Corporation, indicating a broader market shift.
This sounds like investors are getting a bit cautious, perhaps reassessing their positions in the high-flying tech sector.
Indeed. This recent downturn has certainly raised concerns among investors, particularly ahead of the upcoming Federal Reserve meeting, where decisions on interest rates and monetary policy will be made. It reflects a broader trend of reassessing valuations and positioning amidst fears of a potential market correction or maybe a slowdown in tech spending. For instance, while Palantir Technologies recently led a significant market rally, its stock has also seen its longest losing streak since April 2024, proving profitable for short sellers who argue it's fundamentally overvalued. Investors are closely watching its performance and its exposure to key players like NVIDIA, whose chips are crucial for AI.
So, a bumpy and somewhat unpredictable ride for tech stocks, reflecting broader market anxieties. On a more positive economic note, the UK government's borrowing has actually hit a 3-year low.
This is indeed a positive indicator for the United Kingdom's fiscal health. In July, the UK's government borrowing fell to its lowest level in 3 years, coming in significantly below economists' expectations. This improvement was largely driven by a robust increase in tax receipts and national insurance contributions, indicating stronger economic activity and employment.
That's certainly good news for the UK economy. What are the broader implications of this improved fiscal picture for the country?
Well, this positive indicator, by alleviating some concerns about the nation's fiscal health and debt levels, suggests potential for more flexibility in the UK's fiscal policy going forward. This could translate into more room for government spending or tax adjustments, potentially benefiting public services like healthcare and education, as well as enabling greater investment in critical infrastructure projects, which can stimulate long-term economic growth.
That's a welcome sign of fiscal stability for the UK. And finally, a significant trade deal has been announced between the United States and the European Union in the pharmaceutical sector.
Yes, the United States and the European Union, EU, recently unveiled a new trade agreement specifically aimed at reducing tariffs, particularly within the crucial pharmaceutical sector. This marks a significant and welcome shift from previous tensions, where, for instance, a staggering 250% tariff on certain EU pharmaceutical imports was proposed under the previous Trump administration, threatening to severely disrupt trade.
250%. That's an incredibly high, almost prohibitive tariff. So this new deal must be a huge relief and a major benefit for pharmaceutical companies on both sides of the Atlantic.
It absolutely is. The deal is meticulously designed to facilitate smoother trade flows and significantly improve market access for both U.S. and EU pharmaceutical companies. The expectation is that this will not only stimulate innovation in drug development, but also enhance the availability and potentially reduce the cost of essential medicines for consumers on both continents, fostering a more collaborative and efficient global pharmaceutical supply chain.
That's truly great news, especially for medicine availability and affordability for millions of people. Let's turn our attention now to the urgent and impactful issues of climate change and natural disasters, starting with Hurricane Erin and its significant impact on the U.S. East Coast.
Hurricane Erin is currently making its presence felt along the U.S. East Coast. It is affecting the Outer Banks in North Carolina as it progresses northward, bringing with it significant coastal flooding, torrential rains, and tropical storm conditions to both North Carolina and the wider East Coast region. Currently, nearly 40 million residents across multiple states are under various coastal flood alerts.
40 million residents under alerts. That's an absolutely massive area and population affected. This sounds like it could be pretty devastating for those coastal communities.
It certainly has the potential for extensive damage, yeah. The storm is expected to unleash heavy rains, which can cause inland flooding, and high waves leading to severe storm surge, prompting concerns of sadness and devastation for homes and infrastructure. There's potential for widespread damage and significant disruption in coastal areas. Emergency services from North Carolina up through the mid-Atlantic are on high alert, preparing for evacuations and rescue operations. It's a stark reminder of the immense power and destructive potential of nature.
What's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the alert and the anticipated impact, reflecting the broad reach of such powerful weather events. Speaking of large-scale impacts, new research on Antarctic sea ice loss indicates a catastrophic and potentially self-perpetuating cycle.
This new research paints a very concerning picture. It indicates that Antarctic sea ice has receded an average of 120 kilometers. That's roughly 75 miles from Antarctica's shores since 2014 alone. This rapid and unprecedented recession signals a catastrophic impact on the Earth's delicate climate system, far exceeding previous models and predictions.
120 kilometers of ice loss in just over a decade. That's an enormous, almost unimaginable amount of ice gone. What are the immediate ecological threats stemming from this rapid ice loss?
The ecological implications are dire and widespread. This accelerating ice loss directly threatens numerous marine species with extinction. Crucially, it impacts key species like krill, tiny crustaceans that form the base of the Antarctic food web, and emperor penguins, which rely entirely on stable sea ice for breeding, molting, and access to feeding grounds. Without this ice, their breeding colonies are collapsing, and their food sources are disappearing, leading to cascading effects throughout the entire Antarctic ecosystem.
And the long-term outlook sounds pretty grim. Even its global efforts to cut emissions are successful. It sounds like a runaway process.
Unfortunately, the study warns that even with aggressive global carbon emission reductions, the loss of Antarctic sea ice is projected to continue for centuries. This is because it has initiated a self-perpetuating cycle, where less ice means more ocean warming, which in turn melts more ice. This sets off widespread climate and ecological changes, including a diminished capacity for the Southern Ocean to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, further accelerating global warming.
So this raises an important and unsettling question. Are we past a certain tipping point for some of these major critical climate systems where the changes are now irreversible on a human timescale? Speaking of climate, China's picture is quite mixed, showcasing both remarkable progress in solar energy and a concerning expansion of coal-intensive industries.
This is a true paradox of global climate efforts. China is indeed rapidly establishing what it claims will be the world's largest solar farm, an enormous project spanning 610 square kilometers. That's roughly the size of the city of Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. This monumental investment in renewables is contributing to a slight but significant decline in its overall carbon dioxide CO2 emissions in the first half of 2025.
That's incredibly impressive, a solar farm the size of Chicago. It shows China's immense capacity for green energy infrastructure. But you said mixed picture. Where's the downside or the counter trend here?
Well, the downside is significant and directly undermines these positive trends. A new study indicates that the rapid expansion of China's coal-to-chemicals industry is counteracting much of the progress. This sector, which converts coal into chemicals, plastics, and fuels, relies heavily on coal as its primary feedstock and energy source. It has seen a staggering 20% growth in coal usage, threatening China's overall climate goals by potentially adding an additional 2% to its national CO2 emissions by 2029.
So they're building renewables at an incredible pace, but simultaneously burning significantly more coal for other industrial processes. It really does feel like taking 2 steps forward and then 1 step back, or perhaps even 1.5 steps back.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, despite its leading position in renewable energy capacity and production, China still consumes more coal than all other countries combined globally. This raises serious concerns about its adherence to international climate commitments under agreements like the Paris Agreement, especially given that it hasn't updated its National Climate Plan, known as its Nationally Determined Contribution, NDC, since 2020. This duality of green growth and coal expansion presents a huge challenge for global emissions targets.
That's a massive critical challenge for global emissions targets and efforts to combat climate change. And speaking of challenges, wildfires are rampant and intensifying across Spain and Portugal.
Firefighters across Spain and Portugal are indeed facing immense challenges containing rampant wildfires that are spreading rapidly. These blazes are intensified by a combination of prolonged and record-breaking heat waves, which dry out vegetation, and arid, drought-like conditions, all exacerbated by the broader effects of climate change.
It seems like every summer, we hear about these incredibly intense and widespread fires devastating southern Europe. What's the immediate and long-term impact on these communities?
Well, these fires have led to the emergency evacuation of several communities, forcing thousands from their homes, and they are putting immense pressure on already stretched emergency services, including firefighters and medical personnel. Beyond the immediate threat to life and property, these fires are threatening both the immediate natural environment, causing significant ecological damage, and severely impacting local economies that are heavily reliant on tourism and agriculture. The smoke and ash also create widespread public health hazards.
It's a clear and devastating link between global climate change and the direct daily lives of people, impacting their safety, homes, and livelihoods. Now, on a more hopeful but nuanced note, how can we optimize tree planting for climate impact? It's not as simple as just planting more trees, is it?
That's a crucial distinction. Recent research highlights the critical importance of selectivity and strategic planning in tree planting initiatives to maximize their climate benefits. The findings reveal that tropical areas offer the most substantial gains due to several factors: year-round growth, which leads to continuous carbon absorption, and enhanced carbon sequestration rates due to the rapid growth of trees in these warm, humid environments.
So location really matters, not just the act of planting. Are there actually unintended negative consequences if you plant trees in the wrong place or without proper planning?
Absolutely. Conversely, indiscriminate planting, particularly in temperate or arid zones, can actually exacerbate climate issues. For example, some research indicates it can lead to increased surface temperatures where it alters albedo effects. That's the reflectivity of a surface. Forests, being darker than grasslands or snow, absorb more sunlight, potentially leading to warming in some regions. This means tree planting is definitely not a standalone universal solution and requires careful consideration of local ecosystems, the selection of appropriate native species, and the ecological impact on water resources and biodiversity.
That's a crucial nuance, transforming tree planting from a simple feel-good act into a precise, almost surgical climate tool. Unfortunately, there's also a cautionary tale emerging about carbon credit schemes and inadvertent habitat destruction, specifically in Estonia.
This is a stark example of a well-intentioned scheme going awry. In Estonia, a carbon credit scheme designed to offset carbon emissions by promoting reforestation inadvertently destroyed the critical habitat of rare and protected birds, notably the great snipe. This occurred in wetlands near Lake Vortjarf, where forests were planted, replacing the native grasslands that these ground-nesting birds depend on for survival.
That sounds like the exact opposite of what a carbon credit scheme is supposed to do. A scheme designed to help the environment actually ended up harming a vulnerable ecosystem.
It clearly highlights the inherent downsides and significant risks of poorly regulated voluntary carbon markets. A recent meta-study, which analyzed numerous carbon credit projects, revealed that less than 16% of issued carbon credits genuinely reflect verifiable environmental benefits. The vast majority either do not lead to actual emissions reductions or, as in the Estonian case, cause unintended ecological damage. In response to this growing scrutiny and public criticism, major corporations like Microsoft Corporation are reassessing their investments in these projects, and EU lawmakers have approved new, stricter regulations specifically aiming to improve carbon credit frameworks to combat greenwashing and overall ineffectiveness.
So what does this all mean for the future of carbon credit schemes and their role in climate mitigation? It's clear they need to be much more rigorously vetted and transparent to ensure they're actually helping, not inadvertently harming, the planet. Finally, let's explore some significant societal impact and justice stories. We're going to begin with a persistent and deeply troubling challenge: abuse and accountability within various institutions.
This is indeed an unfortunately recurring theme that speaks to fundamental issues of trust and power. In the United Kingdom, Chris Brain, a former priest and a once influential head of the 9 o'clock service in Sheffield, was recently found guilty of 17 indecent assaults on 9 women during the 1980s and 1990s. His actions, perpetrated from a position of immense spiritual and community trust, highlight critical issues of systemic abuse within religious institutions and underscore the vital importance of holding perpetrators, no matter how powerful or respected, fully accountable. This verdict has intensified discussions around safeguarding practices and victim support within religious organizations.
That's a horrific betrayal of trust within a religious institution, and it sadly echoes similar stories we've heard. And unfortunately, we're seeing a similar issue of abuse within sports institutions as well.
Yes, another incredibly brave survivor has come forward. 18-year-old gymnast Finley Weldon courageously shared her harrowing experiences of abuse at the hands of her former coach, Sean Gardner. Gardner has since been arrested following a formal inquiry into allegations of misconduct at an elite gymnastics academy in Iowa, United States. Her story, and others like it, emphasize the ongoing urgent need to fundamentally address the culture of abuse within sports institutions, particularly those with hierarchical power dynamics, and to ensure robust support systems are in place for survivors.
It's incredibly brave for these survivors to come forward and share their stories, and it's a stark reminder that these issues of abuse and the struggle for accountability cut across different types of institutions, from religious to athletic. Shifting to immigration and asylum, there's a complex and often heated debate playing out in the United Kingdom between local communities and national government policy.
This situation is certainly creating significant friction. A recent court ruling in England prevented an Epping hotel from accommodating asylum seekers, sparking a broader national debate about the government's approach. Kemi Badenoch, a prominent Conservative Party leader, has publicly urged Tory, that's Conservative councils across the UK, to actively contest the placement of asylum seekers in hotels within their jurisdictions. Meanwhile, a growing number of councils, over 7 so far, including those governed by the opposition Labour Party, are considering or pursuing legal challenges against the central government's policy. This indicates a growing bipartisan concern over the management of the asylum system, specifically its reliance on hotel accommodation and its perceived impact on local resources and community integration.
So it's not just a partisan political issue. It's local councils from across the political spectrum pushing back against a national policy, highlighting the strain on communities. And on a related and very concerning note, there have been some alarming data breaches, specifically concerning Afghan refugees in the UK.
This is truly a grave issue. The UK's Ministry of Defence, MODE, has publicly acknowledged a distressing 49 significant data breaches involving highly sensitive personal information concerning Afghan refugees who are applying for safety in the United Kingdom following the Taliban takeover. These breaches raise extremely serious concerns regarding the protection of personal data for these vulnerable individuals, risking their safety given the hostile and dangerous environment in Afghanistan if their information were to fall into the wrong hands. Furthermore, it significantly undermines public confidence in government processes designed to protect those seeking refuge.
49 breaches of highly sensitive data for vulnerable people actively seeking refuge. That's an unacceptable level of risk and a profound failure of data protection. This raises an important question about the government's fundamental responsibility to protect those it has explicitly promised to help and safeguard. Now let's talk about some truly strange anomalies within the judicial system, specifically a judge's very unusual mistake.
In a genuinely startling courtroom development that stunned observers, Alton Oliver, who was on trial in the United States related to the killing of a deputy, was unexpectedly cleared of all charges. This occurred because of an incorrect verdict that was mistakenly delivered by the presiding judge.
Wait, the judge delivered the wrong verdict? How does that even happen? That seems like such a fundamental error in a courtroom.
It is indeed highly unusual and a significant procedural misstep. This incident immediately raises profound concerns regarding the meticulousness of the judicial process and underscores the absolute importance of accuracy in judicial rulings, as the consequences for individuals are life-altering. This rare but impactful flaw in the system has prompted widespread discussions within legal circles about preventing such critical errors in the future, possibly through additional checks and balances in verdict delivery.
It really makes you wonder about the layers of checks and balances that are supposed to be in place to prevent such fundamental errors in the courtroom. Now let's look at some pressing issues of crime and public safety, with challenges manifesting both locally and globally, starting in Nigeria.
In Nigeria's Katsina state, located in the northwestern part of the country, criminal gangs are reportedly continuing relentless killing sprees, abducting women and children for ransom and resources. This ongoing and brutal violence is deeply rooted in historical disputes over land and water resources between farming communities and nomadic herders. It highlights the severe struggle of the state security apparatus to contain the violence, leading to an increased reliance on local vigilante groups who often operate outside official legal structures for protection.
That's a horrifying and deeply unstable situation, with communities resorting to vigilante groups for basic protection when the state cannot provide it. And across the continent, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, human rights abuses are tragically rampant.
Indeed. Recent reports from leading human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have highlighted widespread and systematic human rights abuses in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. These abuses include pervasive violence, unlawful killings, arbitrary detentions, and rampant sexual violence, perpetrated by both state security forces and numerous non-state armed actors. These reports underscore the urgent need for international attention, intervention, and accountability to protect civilian populations caught in the crossfire of ongoing conflicts and exploitation.
So both government forces and various armed groups are committing these atrocities, creating an incredibly dangerous environment for civilians. And in Malawi, there's a humanitarian crisis unfolding in overcrowded refugee camps.
Yes. Overcrowded refugee camps in Malawi are currently struggling under immense pressure, leading to rapidly rising levels of hunger, disease, and crime within their perimeters. The deteriorating living conditions and severe strain on already limited resources are sparking intense tensions among inhabitants, who are vying for scarce aid. This dire situation is prompting urgent calls for immediate international assistance and desperately needed improvements to the camp's infrastructure.
That's a humanitarian crisis compounding an already difficult situation, with an added layer of internal conflict and suffering. Back in the U.S., a high-profile, decades-old case is back in the news with Menendez brothers' parole hearings.
Eric and Lyle Menendez are once again set to present their cases for parole after serving nearly 3 decades in prison for the infamous 1989 murders of their wealthy parents in Beverly Hills, California, United States. Their defense has consistently maintained that the murders were a desperate act, a direct result of long-term severe sexual abuse they allegedly suffered at the hands of their parents. Prosecutors, however, have always argued that the brothers' motive was purely financial gain, driven by a desire to inherit their parents' substantial wealth. This hearing is bringing renewed focus to a sensational case that captivated the nation.
That case truly captivated the nation with its dramatic twists and turns when it first happened, becoming a cultural touchstone. And in a tragic incident with new media implications, a French streamer recently died during a grueling live broadcast.
This is a truly tragic and disturbing incident that highlights the darker side of online content creation. A French streamer, whose identity has not been publicly released, died during a grueling, nearly 12-day continuous live broadcast. During this prolonged stream, he allegedly faced extreme and emotionally abusive challenges, reportedly imposed by his audience or other participants, for views and donations. This tragic death has sparked widespread outrage across the online community and has prompted an official investigation into the ethics of live streaming, the responsibilities of platforms to protect their creators, and the boundaries of content monetization, particularly when it comes to the safety and mental health of content creators.
That's an awful story, and it raises a lot of very serious questions about how far people will go for online content and what responsibility, if any, platforms have in preventing such tragedies. From tragic figures to beloved ones, let's talk about some civic figures and their public perception.
On a much lighter note, the world recently mourned the passing of Frank Caprio, the beloved U.S. celebrity judge who became a social media phenomenon. Known widely as the nicest judge in the world, Judge Caprio passed away at 88. He was celebrated globally for his exceptional compassion, his profound wisdom, and his truly unique, human-centered approach to justice. His legacy is one that cultivated warmth, empathy, and offered second chances in the often impersonal courtroom, touching millions of lives through viral videos.
He truly did bring a sense of humanity and warmth to the courtroom, making justice feel a little more accessible and understandable for people encountering the legal system. He touched so many lives. And in the UK, a counselor's wife was jailed for hate speech.
Yes, Lucy Connolly, the wife of a UK councillor, was recently released after serving a 31-month prison sentence. Her incarceration stemmed from making a racially charged social media post that was deemed hate speech. This case highlights ongoing debates about the precise boundaries of free speech versus hate speech laws, and it brings into sharp focus the accountability of public figures' families in the digital age, particularly when their actions can reflect on their public roles.
So the actions of family members can definitely have significant legal and public implications for those in public office. Finally, let's touch on some widespread changes occurring within the education system.
As the new academic year begins across the United States, students in 17 U.S. states are facing new, often strict, restrictions on cell phone use, specifically during instructional time. This shift is a direct response to growing concerns from educators and parents alike. The aim is primarily to enhance student focus and significantly improve educational outcomes by minimizing ubiquitous classroom distractions that cell phones often introduce.
That's a big move, and I imagine it's been debated and requested by teachers for years. It'll be incredibly interesting to see what kind of impact that has on student engagement and academic performance. And for students in the UK, it's a nervous but pivotal time with GCSE Results Day.
Indeed. Students across the UK are anxiously awaiting their GCSE, that's the General Certificate of Secondary Education and BTEC Business and Technology Education Council results. The GCSEs are critical national qualifications taken by students aged 14-16, while BTECs are vocational qualifications. The expected pass rate for 2024 is anticipated to be broadly similar to the previous year, reflecting a period of relative stability after the significant fluctuations in grading and assessment methods caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a moment of truth for many young people determining their next steps.
A nervous but hopefully stable results day for those students, marking a significant milestone in their educational journeys. Wow, what a journey we've taken together today. We've truly deep dived through an incredibly dense and dynamic stack of information this week, from the groundbreaking discovery of a hidden moon orbiting Uranus by the James Webb Space Telescope, and the complex ethical dilemmas emerging from the rapid integration of AI into our daily lives, to the ongoing geopolitical chess game unfolding in Ukraine, and the increasingly urgent challenges posed by climate change.
The world is indeed constantly evolving at an astonishing pace, and being truly well-informed isn't just about knowing the surface facts. It's about understanding the intricate connections between seemingly disparate events, grasping the underlying motivations driving global actors, and recognizing the profound implications these developments hold for our collective future. Our deep dive is meticulously designed to equip you with exactly that nuanced understanding, helping you connect these threads into a coherent, comprehensive picture of our shared planet.
Absolutely. And as we continue to integrate artificial intelligence into nearly every facet of our lives, helping us book restaurant reservations and managing our calendars, to potentially surveilling public discourse and influencing political narratives, what profound questions does this raise for you? Think about the evolving definition of privacy in an AI-pervasive world, the nature of authentic human connection when artificial intelligence can mimic emotions so convincingly, and even the future of democratic processes themselves as AI gains more influence.
Consider how technology might fundamentally reshape not just what we do in our daily lives, but who we are as individuals and how we interact with the world and each other. The implications are truly profound and will define much of the coming decades.
That's certainly a lot to mull over. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. Until next time, stay curious.